The Hunt path is currently on a rise in Honkai Star Rail, and that is thanks to a number of factors. One of those being this character in the screen I have in front of you all. Her value has continued to skyrocket the more we receive single target damage dealers and characters that rely on the special intricacies in her kit. And then the Hunt characters also have very nice multipliers to factor into all of that. Yo, what up, Toshi here. Dr. Ratio is seeming to be one of the best characters in the game, and that's such a good thing because he's a character we all will be receiving for free. And for quite a while now, the Hunt path has been overshadowed by the characters that just do adjacent hitting damage, that also do very nice single target damage, well, damage in single target scenarios. Anyways, let's hop into today's video. So I know this is probably the umpteenth Silverwolf video, or not necessarily Silverwolf video, but video I've talked about Silverwolf in, and that's because she is still one of the best characters in the game. I do understand Ruan Mei has been a very valuable asset to teams across the board, but Silverwolf has still remained a top tier support in Honkai Star Rail, and that does not seem to change anytime soon. So for those of you that do have Dr. Ratio, this is going to be one of the best characters to use alongside him, and for future Hunt characters, also will benefit from her existence as well. Now let's talk about Seele for a second. This character has remained her spot in the tier list, has remained her spot in the meta, has remained relevant for a very long time now. And that's because of Silverwolf, to be quite honest. If the enemies are not weak to Quantum, you can bring Silverwolf, and these two characters pair together so well. But also, Seele has a very interesting and well-designed kit. Her kit flows very nicely, and she has a reward factor for whenever you kill an enemy, high risk, high reward playstyle. And that's one of the reasons why she's able to stay relevant, because the more investment you have on the character, the better she gets. So the more time you have farming in this game, the better your Seele will be getting over time. But her relevancy is also thanks to the addition of planar sets to increase her overall damage whenever she meets those speed thresholds. So since she is a character that can go up to 160 speed relatively easily because she has a high base speed, and she increases her speed with her elemental skill, you're going to meet this light cone. In fact, this light cone feels tailor-made for the character, in my honest opinion. This bonus ability in her traces is a big one, because you increase your quantum resist penetration by 20% whenever you're in her buff state, and that's whether or not you kill an opponent or you press your ultimate. She gets that 20% increase quantum resist penetration. It's very strong because Ruan Mei gives 25% to everyone, no matter what element they are, but Seele already has innately 20% on her own. So I genuinely wish I was able to get Ruan Mei on this account, because I would be able to show you all the synergy she has with Seele. And I genuinely do believe that this character inside the Monoquantum team is absolutely bonkers. But again, I just don't have the character on this account. So Seele's 20% quantum resist penetration on top of the 25% you get for Ruan Mei means you're going to just deal so much more damage to the opponents that are already weak to quantum. And Silverwolf into the mix means that the enemies will literally take true damage from your Seele. They'll take true damage from this character. Now let's talk about hypercarry for a second, because this is where most of the Hunt characters shine. A team centered around buffing that character and exclusively that character. Now every character in the game for the most part can be used in a hypercarry team, but the reason why Seele and Dr. Ratio are very special cases here is because they're able to utilize the best supports in the game. Again, these supports feel really tailor-made for these characters. Now, I do understand that the value of some characters like Huohuo does grow the more allies you have in the party that actually deal damage, because she gives energy and attack to the whole team. So she feels much better for dot teams in general. But when you have a team here that is able to funnel energy to every other support here, and then you're also able to funnel more damage to the damage dealer, your damage dealer, Seele in this case, is going to hit harder, and therefore she's able to get in those resets on her turn and deal even more damage and generate even more energy for herself. And to be quite honest, I don't see this team changing for Dr. Ratio either, because every character here is going to perform the same with him like they would perform with Seele. And therefore, every character here is going to buff his damage to the moon, Silverwolf giving him all the debuffs he needs in order to deal as much damage as he can possible, giving him the resist shred, the defense reduction, and even more defense reduction with the passive on her traces. Bronya still remains the queen of hypercarry teams. And again, since every Hunt character pretty much functions the best in hypercarry teams, with a few exceptions, well, you have one of the best characters still for that role. However, going forward into the future is not going to be more so about what the characters can do themselves, but about the characters they function or synergize with in order to increase their overall damage. Because Topaz is a very interesting case. She is a Hunt character, but she doesn't function like other Hunt characters. Let me explain. So Topaz is a character of the Hunt category, and in my honest opinion, I believe this game should have had another path exclusively for characters that function in the Elation path more so than the path they actually reside in. So for instance, Topaz, I believe she's a character that is more so Elation than being a Hunt character just because everything in her kit is follow-up attack, so she doesn't feel like a Hunt character even though she only has single target damage. However, just like all of the other Hunt characters, she does benefit from Soul Wolf in the party as well, so she can utilize some of the best supports as well. But you're most likely going to use this character in combination with other damage dealers to increase those damage dealers' damage overall instead of increasing Topaz's damage, because she is still a character that buffs the team more so than just buffing herself. So when you have a path of characters that more so have a selfish playstyle, a character that is able to buff the whole team as well doesn't really fit into that category. They kind of stick out. So therefore, other characters into the future, I believe, will be more in line with the Hunt path, dealing very nice single target damage, just like Dr. Ratio, and he is a prime example of that. One of the best things about the Hunt characters is that they do have some very solid free-to-play options for the light cones. Their light cones feel a lot like the path of Nihility in the form of increasing the damage greatly for those characters and just being free-to-play friendly. So light cones like Swordsplay is very good for the Hunt characters because they're going to stack the passive relatively easily and without having to need other characters in the team party to, put dots into the enemy to increase their overall damage. So these light cones feel more flexible, and again, they synergize so well with characters that are just going to be hitting the same opponents rather, over and over again. Some other light cones in the game increasing the crit damage and crit rate of said damage dealers is just very nice. And again, Hunt characters mostly want crit rate and crit damage or crit stats overall because, again, they're characters that are going to be hitting mostly in the form of single target hits. So therefore, you want to make sure that you have those nice ratios on your character. Well, get it? Ratio, Dr. Ratio. You want to have those nice ratios on your characters because if you have a character that does not crit with their ultimate, is going to hurt more so than a character that does AoE damage and, let's say, misses a crit on one of the adjacent enemies. But even 4-star options increase the crit rate of those damage dealers and give them a lot of attack. So therefore, they're able to benefit from even more so free-to-play alternatives because those exist for the path. And the criteria they have to meet are not even that restrictive. You only need 2 or fewer enemies on the field, and considering these are characters that benefit from those scenarios anyways, well, you'll have passive uptime on the light cone pretty much all the time. And lastly, there is one more thing to talk about. We have yet to receive characters in the form of limited characters that are of the Hunt path, but of different elements. Notably, one of those characters being, let's say, Ice, and one of those characters also being Lightning. Those characters have not released in Honkai Star yet, but there is one more thing you have to take into consideration. Now, I typically don't like saying the word power creep, but the truth or the reality of the situation is that Honkai Star for quite a while now has had innate power creep. I mean, it's very hard to not have power creep in a turn-based game, so it's just a part of the fundamental design of the game, but characters across the board have been creeping up in terms of damage, well, for damage dealers especially, and then supports as well, but that's a different story. So therefore, other characters that are to release of the Hunt path but are of elements that this path is currently missing, for instance, Ice, Imaginary, and then going forward, Lightning, well, those characters are most likely going to be better than the characters that pre-exist, just because those characters need to be sold, if that makes sense. So I'm just thinking of how Honkai Star is just shaping up to be right now, so this is just my thoughts logically, if that makes sense. So there you have it. What I'm saying may not even come to fruition, and other Hunt characters in the future buff up other damage dealers more so than buffing up themselves. And if that's the case, then I'm going to be very disappointed because, again, Hunt characters should be very strong, the best characters in single target scenarios, not buffing other damage dealers. Again, that's one of the things I don't like about Topaz, but I'm pretty sure I've mentioned that already. However, with the release of more single target damage dealers, they'll be able to benefit from the best supports, so more so Soul Wolf. And again, I know I talk about Soul Wolf all the time, but she really is an amazing character. That's the video here. Thank you for watching, and have a nice rest of your day. Peace.